Hey everyone, this is Ilya, and today's video I'm going to be focusing on business software stacking. When you have a problem in your business or in your operations, guess what? You're going to go out there and you will be trying to find a software that will magically and hopefully solve your problem. And again, I've done this myself, you probably have done this 100 times, right? But what happens is those softwares never solve our problems. And this video is just my attempt to present you with an approach or a structured way of solving all these problems that happen in your business without necessarily looking for a new software, or at least without starting with looking for a new software. So let's dive into this. And a first example that I want to share with you is structure comes first, then tools. And this is going to be about building a house. Now, this can be a very common example, right? And hopefully many people understand this, what I'm trying to convey. But whenever you're building a house, you do not want to start with going and picking a sofa or purchasing utensils, right? Buying paint for your walls, because no matter what you have inside your house, whether it's the best furniture, the best kitchen, smart house stuff, that's not gonna last without a solid foundation for your house. Now, when we translate this to a business world, we can say that the foundation of your business is your business processes. And if we start with picking a software or looking for some solution out there without focusing on this foundation, that's going to be the same as purchasing a sofa for your house that you have not built yet. So we're going to start with building the house first. And to do this, most of the projects that I lead, I have this structure in my head. I start with processes, which answers the question of who does what. And hopefully this structure just helps you break it down in your head as well. So we go and we start with processes, who does what. Then we go into systems and we say how they do it. And now we go into software and we say what tools do they use to accomplish these steps. Now, many companies do this backwards. They start with software and they say, okay, what tools do we need to accomplish this step without even understanding what is the foundation of what they're trying to achieve, right? In this case, this is going to be your business processes. I'm going to jump into the next question, which is, in this case, if we start with business processes and we can agree on that, how do we start? Like, what do we do? What are the steps to follow? And it's a very simple framework that I follow myself, and I just break it down into 3 simple steps to begin with. The first one is I start by talking to the people who do the work. Many of the times you start with talking to managers or someone who is not necessarily doing the work, right? Hoping to get some information from them. If you want to understand what's going on, you need to talk to the people who are closest to the work. This is why we go and we start interviewing these people. Now, the next piece is you start visualizing your processes. Processes are abstract things, right? They're not real, they're not tangible. This is why we need to visualize them. We need to make them alive. And we do this by using different types of diagrams. It really doesn't matter which type you prefer. The main idea is to communicate what's going on inside that process to the rest of the team. And another thing that's important here is that if you can't see it, you can't improve it, right? This is the rule that many business owners are familiar with, and with processes it works the same way. If you can visualize the process and you can see all the steps in the process, you can start seeing things, inefficiencies, or some improvement opportunities that you have not thought of before. This is why we visualize diagrams and we make them live, right? We make them alive. And the last piece is focusing on the right level of granularity. Now, many business owners are excited when they start visualizing diagrams and putting together diagrams. They start interviews and they go just too much into detail, they go into detail and then they get stuck. Just because I don't want you to get stuck, I want you to focus on the high level of the processes. I don't want you to go into nitty-gritty of every single step of the process. And by the way, I've made this mistake myself. This is when I'm visualizing processes right now, when I'm discussing this with someone, I'm trying to keep it high level. I'm saying, hey, I don't need to know exactly step by step of how to do it. You just need to explain to me what's the input of the step and what's the output of your step, meaning what information is required for you to complete your work and what information is going to be the output of your work. This just helps me put the high-level diagram together, and then when we need to go into more detail of how the work is done, which is, by the way, the system level of granularity, right? When we go back to the diagram, you remember we had processes, systems, and then we had software. When we discuss the systems, this is where we're gonna discuss of how they do it, right? So we're gonna just keep it for later, but we're gonna tackle the nitty-gritty of every single step. Not that we're not going to. This is just a 3-step, easy approach, simple approach that you can follow and start even doing this work today. Another piece is about the software, right? So we want to start with the foundation, but there is a bigger question of why. It's not just because, I put these structures together and said the process goes first, then we have system, then we have software. No, the reason behind all of this structure is really understanding the concept of a software, right? Or the value that software brings into your business. And most of the time what it does is multiplies what you already have. It multiplies the bad in your business as well as it multiplies the good. Now, an example here can be if your process is confusing. So in this example, we have a confusing example, right? If your process is confusing, and it can be your service delivery, right? People do not know what to do. Again, things are all over the place. Now you want to introduce a software, and guess what? That software, most of the time, is gonna multiply your confusion and not solve that confusion. The same thing happens with ineffectiveness. Imagine your sales process. If you can't convert a single person from the 100 leads you're reaching out manually, if you just implement an automation tool or a sales platform, that's not going to increase your conversion, right? It's just going to 10x your ineffectiveness. Now, the cool stuff about software is that it also multiplies the good, right? As I said. So imagine instead of confusing, you're gonna have a streamlined process. What it does is it multiplies 10x's your streamlined process and makes it even more streamlined, right? And makes your employees' life easier. You do the work 100 times faster. And this is the real impact of the software, the positive impact. The ineffectiveness, the opposite, can be the effectiveness. So if you're selling well by reaching out to people manually, then if you apply automation to that process, that's just gonna 10x your effectiveness and you're gonna be selling more consequently. The thought starts with the process, not the software, because this is the foundation, and this is why I put that structure specifically that way, leaving the software as the last piece and process as the fundamental first piece. Now, the questions that you might want to ask before purchasing a software. I know many of you are looking for softwares as well as I do. I like just going and looking for new websites. They have different features. It's really cool stuff and it is exciting. But I want you to ask these questions before you subscribe. I'm not saying that you should not go and just look for new opportunities out there and for new functionalities, but you definitely need to ask these questions before you actually put your credit card information and purchase the subscription. The first one is an example: do I have clarity on my processes? Now, as we said, this is the foundation of everything. If you don't know what's going on, if you have confusion in your processes and no one knows what's going on, applying a software is just going to make it more confusing. And even if when you apply a software, the first step should be to figure out the process and only then try to transition it and integrate it into a software. The next example is, are roles and responsibilities clear? Again, going back to that example, if you don't know the roles and responsibilities of your team members, just applying some software and automation tool is not going to help you. It's just going to multiply the bad aspects of your process. So before you do that, just make sure that you make roles and responsibilities clear. And this is just, again, one of the examples. There are many more questions you can ask yourself. And am I solving the root problem or just putting on another band-aid? Again, this is what I said from the very beginning. Most of the time when you purchase a solution, you're just looking for a software, you're just looking to solve a very specific problem, one problem, which is part of a bigger process, but when you're solving it, you forget about the process aspect. You just solve that specific. And you end up again with hundreds of subscriptions, hundreds of different softwares, which just increases the confusion in your team and just makes people wonder, what tool should we use today? What tool are we gonna use tomorrow? Now, these are just a couple of examples of the questions you might want to ask yourself. This can definitely vary based on your business case and based on what you're trying to achieve. But I just wanted to give you a couple of examples of what you might want to ask yourself before, again, purchasing and committing to some platform. And with all that said, let's stop stacking tools and start architecting systems that last in your business. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, push the like button, and I'll see you in the next one.